Tonight, a massive cybercrime bust is keeping you a bit safer online, but the threat isn't over or gone yet.
Using social media is fun, right? We can share pictures, videos, and voice notes with people who live thousands of miles away from us. And if it's someone you share a romantic relationship with, you can share some steamy pictures and videos once in a while. And this was exactly what Daniel Perry from Scotland thought. He thought the internet was a safe place to meet great people and perhaps even a girlfriend. Fortunately for Daniel, he met a pretty young woman from Illinois, and before we could say Jack Robinson, these two had become lovers like Romeo and Juliet. They soon began exchanging pictures and videos of themselves, and a 17-year-old Daniel believed he had found the love of his life. Well, there was just one little problem. The girl from Illinois didn't exist at all, and Daniel was in fact chatting with someone who was part of a sextortion gang from the Philippines. One day, Daniel realized that this gang had secretly recorded a webcam chat he had with his supposed lovers, and unless he paid them thousands of dollars, they would release this video to his friends and family. Daniel was devastated. Everything had happened so quickly. One moment he was in love, and the next he couldn't understand what was happening. The gang asked him for money, which he quickly provided. Daniel was able to raise over $3,500, but when the money ran out, he had no idea what to do. But the gang wouldn't let him be. They threatened to release the videos as quickly as possible, and when he pleaded that he had no money, they asked him if he weren't just better off dead. Confused and worried that his friends and family would never see him the same way again, Daniel decided to do exactly what his gang had suggested: take his own life. In July 2013, Daniel walked to a bridge and jumped off, killing himself. What just happened? How did this gang from the Philippines control and destroy Daniel's life all from a social network? To answer these questions, we have to focus on the figure behind the operations, a woman named Maria Caparas. The beginning. Maria Caparas is a single mother who lives in northern Philippines. At first, she appears to be a regular woman who is doing everything she can to give her children a great life. But underneath all that facade and the truth of Maria's life, she is the dawn of the gang that just led Daniel to his death, and he is just one of their many victims. This gang is not the regular kind. They don't go around attacking people with guns and knives. Instead, they operate with laptops and computers and create Facebook accounts where they practice something called sextortion. Now, here's how it works. Maria and her workers create fake Facebook accounts with the faces and names of ladies based in all parts of the world. With these fake accounts, unsuspecting men fall in love with these women that do not exist, and they end up exchanging nude videos. But who owned the faces on these Facebook accounts? Like everything else, Maria has a method for this. She tells the workers to find a profile of a beautiful woman from whatever part of the world. Then, they take her profile picture and create another account with a fake name and her face. And every time this person posts a picture, the worker would take this picture and also post on the fake account. A silly trick, but it did the work of making victims believe that this account is real. Now back to the story. What exactly was the catch for this gang? Well, the videos from the foreigners will then be used to blackmail them. Maria and her dangerous gang will threaten these men to send them money, around $5,000, or their nude videos will be shared with their friends, co-workers, colleagues, and family members. Now, that's impossible to beat. These men wouldn't want to risk their reputation and destroy their lives, so they end up paying whatever amount the gang asks for. But just like you guessed, it never really ends. But there's something perhaps more fascinating about the story. Maria's gang is perhaps the weirdest one we've ever seen. She not only uses girls who are as young as 12, but also young gay men, and they all have to chat from a script. In her own words, she says, chatters are mostly young girls, some as young as 13, and transgender men. They work to a prepared text to coax victims. We tease them to get them comfortable, and we work to a prepared text. However, how exactly does this scheme work? the process. Maria calls her workers chatters, and the first part of their job is to go on Facebook and find potential victims, which is anything but easy. For starters, they have to find individuals who seem to have good families and great careers, because this means their pockets will be heavy with cash. But it's not just about the money. They also need to know what they can actually blackmail this person when the time comes. If you are the sort of person who puts every single detail about their life on their Facebook page, this might be the time to change that. These chatters always go for men who have linked almost every member of their family on their Facebook page. And if he posts his relationship status as married and then links his partner, that's even a better deal for the gang. After picking their victim, the next step is to send a flirty message that somehow gets the man interested. But if the victim shows that he wouldn't be an easy nut to crack, then Maria has something in store for him. They would send him a pre-recorded video of an almost naked Asian woman, and from this point onward, only a few men would say no. After the man finally lets down his guard, it's time for the social network gang to get to work. Remember how I mentioned that this gang uses a script to deceive their victims? Well, here's where it comes into play. With the script, the chatters try to make their victims feel comfortable. Then, they make them feel like they are in love. But this gang knows that love isn't going to get them money, so they take this one step further. They convince their victims to do something sexual on the camera, and while all of that happens, they simply press the record button and watch. I can guess what you are wondering. How did they convince their victims to get naked when the chatters wouldn't do the same? Well, this part is a little more complicated than every other task. At some point in this video, I mentioned that there is a pre-recorded video that every chatter uses. Yes, if you know your way around a computer, then you already know there's a certain way you can make a pre-recorded video play during a video call. As soon as these victims jump on a call, they are instantly met with a woman who is taking off her clothes and making sexual noises. But what if you tell the half-naked woman to wave her hands just so you know she's real? Well, there's a trick for that too. By pressing a combination of keys, the chatter can jump to the point in the video where the woman waves her hands, which makes it seem like an actual live call. After the video plays to the end, the chatter asks the person to do the same, and it is almost impossible to say no. Believing that they have no choice but to do the same, these unsuspecting men proceed to take off their clothes and do anything the chatter asks. Of course, the victims don't also realize that they are being recorded. In fact, they think it's just something they are doing for their new social media lover, and that can't be harmful, right? Well, as soon as the video is done, the chatter saves it and uploads it to an unlisted YouTube page, and then shows the link to the victim. And here's where it gets pretty dark. The boss, Maria herself, then takes over the chat. She tells the victim that she is going to share this link on Facebook where their friends and family can see. And if you don't want that, you know what to do, pay a lot of money. To make matters worse, these chatters tell the men that they were in fact chatting with an underage girl. This not only put the men at risk of being embarrassed, but they could also land in jail for sending such content to a minor. Just so the victim doesn't get scared and run away, the chatters always start with around $500, depending on the status of their victim. But sometimes the gang gets really lucky. Maria and her gang once made about $200,000 from the son of a tycoon who paid and paid until he couldn't anymore. Also, they earned over $500,000 from their victims in Hong Kong alone. But there's a side to the story that you would find even more repulsing. Maria claimed that her chatter spoke with most men for only about 30 minutes before they agreed to do the things they wanted. This was all shades of illegal, right? But not for Maria. She was running the social network scam like the boss of a legit company, that she even had specific countries where she picked her victims from. She chose the United States, the United Kingdom, Korea, Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, and of course her own country, the Philippines. Her workers were of course not left out of her attempt to make this look legit. So she made sure they all worked in a 3-day shift and had to go through a form of training before becoming a certified chatter. But that isn't all. Her gang members could also get holidays and cash incentives if they somehow managed to reach their financial target. Almost seems like working at a proper company. The members of Maria's cartel soon became richer than everyone in their small and rural North Hills village. Normally, most workers in this village earned as little as $10 each day. They had to walk several miles just to get to the factory. But one of Maria's workers, who wasn't even up to the age of 18, was making $1,200 each week. That's good money, right? And it opened the eyes of many parents in North Hills to how much their children could also make. So here's what they did. They forced their children, even the ones who were just 8 years old, to Maria and asked that she teach them the evil trade. At the end of every week, Maria, with over 30 employees under her wing, was cashing in on thousands of dollars, and by the time she was finally arrested, she had extorted hundreds of men for a total of $1.9 million. You think that's crazy? Wait till you hear that between 2014 and 2015, the Western Union located in Maria's area had the biggest taking from any Western Union branch in the entire world. Just how much money was this woman making all at once? After the victim had agreed to send some money, the next step is to create a fake MasterCard account using the details of the fake Facebook account. However, after the money has been sent through Western Union, there's one final hurdle Maria has to overcome. To withdraw the money from Western Union, there has to be an ID card that verifies the identity of the recipient, and this is where her fake IDs come in. With the faces on the fake Facebook accounts, Maria creates fake IDs, which will then be presented at the Western Union offices to cash out. But wouldn't it be much easier if Maria had her own MasterCard outlet in her small village? Well, that was exactly what she did. After making so much money and becoming a don in the community, she applies for her own Western Union office, gets approved, and receives all her money without a single show of ID. However, her greed was going to put her in trouble, one that she totally didn't expect. The beginning of the end. Let's do the math together. Would you be willing to hire if you had a company that was guaranteed of success? You could hire older employees who would charge more money because they have more responsibilities, or you could hire younger people who would do the same task for way cheaper. As a businessman or a woman, you'd go with a cheaper option, right? But just not when they involve children. Child labor is a crime for many reasons, but forcing children to work in an illegal business? That's just bonkers. Maria didn't care. Instead, she trafficked children from all over the Philippines to come work for her and paid them a tiny fraction of the money she got from her victims. Maria was slowly becoming a millionaire in this tiny village, and despite her chances to leave for the city, she stayed and made her empire stronger. But Maria wasn't just staying because she had built an empire in North Hills. She also stayed because of the protection she got from the people of the village. Maria employed more than 80% of all the teenagers and young adults in this village, and her social media scam was so popular that many other villagers began to do the same. And before she even knew it, Maria became a god, protected and worshipped. Maria was so respected that the villagers even protected her from police officers and reporters who wanted to know more about her illicit business. Interestingly, something was brewing in the background. Maria had no idea that she was being investigated by not just the Philippines police officers, but also by Interpol and the anti-cybercrime group of the Philippines National Police. Since the death of Daniel Perry, Maria and her gang had shown up on their radar of investigation, and it was only a matter of time before the long arms of the law caught up with her. Finally, in August 2014, the Queen of Sextortion, as Maria was called by the media, eventually got arrested after a worldwide investigation. After her arrest, she was charged with robbery and extortion, and if everything had gone right, then she was to be charged to court and made to pay for her crimes. While behind bars, Maria claimed her innocence, saying she knew nothing about Sextortion Company. "I'm just an old woman trying to make some money for my kids," she said. "I don't even know how to operate a computer." If you believe these lies, then you have just been fooled by one of the smartest con women in the world. But just as I guessed, Maria wasn't going to depend on her lies to get her out of prison. She had just a trick under her sleeves. Maria wasn't just rich. She had become so powerful that she had several government officials on her payroll. How then do you arrest somebody like that and keep them behind bars? The children of the police officers were probably her employees, so why would anyone expect them to keep her locked in? After just a few days in the police cell, all charges against Maria got dropped, and she was able to bail herself out of the station. Once again, Maria was a free woman, a woman free to do whatever she wanted, including going back to her dirty business. For the next 2 years, Maria made more and more money from her sextortion business. But guess who was still monitoring her activities and keeping tabs on her? The authorities. Did she really think she was going to go off that easy? Finally, in 2016, the long hands of the law got to her again. And this time it seemed like those arms were never going to let her go. When she was arrested for the second time, Maria claimed again that she was just a poor businesswoman who was trying to make ends meet. But how could she be living from hand to mouth when she owns a 2-story apartment in the village? Also, the investigation further showed that Maria had over 10 properties in the village, with one of them worth around $100,000. She also bought a ton of flashy cars and gave out iPhones, iPads, flat-screen TVs, Samsung phones, and other items to the villagers. No wonder they protected her with their lives. In prison, when Maria was finally granted an interview, she took it as another opportunity to talk about her innocence. However, this lie is slightly different from the first. This time, she agrees that she was part of the extortion scheme, but claims that she was a chatter, just like everybody else. As a matter of fact, she was surprised when she was called the pioneer of this sort of crime. Here's how she explained her part of the story. Some of the chatters can barely speak English, and many are young gay men, but they only communicate by text and show pre-recorded videos so the victim never knows. It only takes about 30 minutes of chat before they are persuaded to do things in front of the camera. They clearly always pay up after we put the video on YouTube. I did feel sorry for those victims. In one case, I told my victim, don't flirt on the internet again. Look what happens. I even blocked one victim on Skype to stop him from getting any demands for more money from my boss. I am ashamed of what I did. I am so sorry for the victims. And when she heard about the teenager who died in Scotland, she said, I am terribly shocked and sad when I heard what happened to the boy in Scotland. I don't know anything about him, but I'm very sad for his family's loss. But is Maria Caparas really sorry for everything she did? Definitely not. In the same interview, she claimed that she had to sleep in the hallway at night and was tired of being away from her 5 children. She even pleaded with the authorities to release her and promises to never return to a life of cybercrime. Instead, she promises to run her small shop. However, I'm sure you already know that Maria's claim of innocence is nothing but a lie because we've got the evidence to prove it. She claimed to have worked as a chatter for only 8 months, during which she made around $15,000. She even claimed that after her first arrest in 2014, she entirely gave up on sextortion. But this picture of her 13-year-old son covered in banknotes says otherwise. If this isn't a show-off of how much she had made from her illicit business, then I don't know what it is. Despite having the backing of the people and even local gangs, a few residents had in fact grown tired of the power Maria had over the entire village. One of these residents was a man who was 100% sure that Maria was the mastermind of the cybercrime. But the man wanted to be sure that he wouldn't be targeted by local gangs. So he spoke anonymously. He said, "This is a poor village made up of people relocated from the Manila slums. But look around and you'll see all the young kids have designer clothes. That's because 70% of the household here make their money from sextortion. The only difference is they do it from their own homes rather since Caparas was arrested. It's still going on because it's easy money and money means everything in a place like this." How did this woman continue to wield this power from behind bars? Does she still have the power and influence she had before going to jail? Unfortunately, it looks like putting Maria Caparas behind bars has done little to curb its increases. The crime she has invented still happens in several parts of the world, including Morocco, India, and Ivory Coast. her crime model is being copied, tweaked, and unleashed on social media users. The Queen might be in prison for many years to come, but her evil methods have no doubt gone way beyond her. Is Facebook innocent? At this point, we can't help but point fingers. If Facebook had done something about this extortion ring, perhaps Maria would never have made such an obscene amount of money. In fact, a recent stat also showed that 70 to 80% of cybercrime happens on Facebook. And according to the Facebook files, we discovered that in just 1 month, there were about 2,500 reported cases of sextortion, and this resulted in the removal of over 9,000 Facebook accounts. Unfortunately, despite this high number of reports and disabled accounts, Facebook reported only 16 cases to the authorities for investigations, leaving the many others to sort themselves out. But since Facebook isn't exactly excited to protect its users from people like Maria Caparas, it's up to you to protect yourself every time you are on social media. And if you ever feel the urge to pull down your clothes for a stranger with your camera on, you might want to think about that again. Maria might not be the most tech-savvy individual in the entire world, but she somehow used her knowledge of Facebook and human psychology to make at least $1 billion from an apartment in the Philippines. Let's take one final detour to the story of Daniel Perry, a teenager who jumped to his death in 2013. The investigation of this tragic story showed us that the person behind the computer was a young Philippine boy, Archie Tolan, who was also arrested in 2016. Tolan was trained by Maria, and she knew all about how Tolan taunted Daniel to his death. Now that's a different level of evil. But did Daniel get his justice yet? Well, not really. Not only have several other scammers like Maria popped up in several parts of the world, she also still awaits trial in the Philippines. Do you think Maria will ever make it out of prison? Or do you think she has finally been put away for good? Let us know what you think in the comments section. Just a piece of advice before we say goodbye. If it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is too good to be true. I'm pretty sure you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed creating it, so hitting the subscribe button doesn't sound like a bad idea, right? Stick around, our next video is just around the corner.